Saludito, mi gente de Lucha Libre Online, ¿qué es la que hay? Les habla Isa, la Demon Diva, y hoy me encuentro con Eric Young, superestrella de Impact Wrestling. Eric, how are you today? Thank you so much for your time.
I'm very, very well. We're crushing the media here in Chicago and trying to get the word out about our amazing wrestling show that I think everyone should be talking about. So happy that you're having me on your show.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you about this event in Chicago in August 12 and 13. And in addition to that, just overall, how things are going for you in Impact since making your return to Impact in 2020. You have made quite a storm. So you want to talk to me a little bit about how it's going in the last 2 years for you, and tell me a little bit more about Violent by Design?
Yeah, it's going really well. It's I can say, you know, a person's been doing this for a long time. This is the most fun I've ever had as a performer. The most fun I've had in a locker room. There's something really special going on here. It's hard to put into words. And if you haven't been in the locker room, it's hard to really understand it, but it's everyone there is doing their own thing. And, you know, we've got ourselves to worry about. That's first, but we're also worrying about each other and worrying more importantly about the product that we're putting out. And we continue to put out a really good, super accessible, fun, kind of something for everybody product week in and week out. In my opinion, it's minute for minute the best professional wrestling show on television. And I don't think it's even close. It's not, we're not trying to draw mainstream people. We're not trying to draw, you know, housewives that aren't interested in wrestling. We want wrestling fans watching our show. And that's who it's written for. That's who it's made by, people that were fans that turned into writers and work wrestlers. And, you know, it's a very special place right now. And I couldn't be prouder to be part of it.
I love to hear that, because recently I personally have noticed a huge surge in Impact, the product. How does it feel to be part of the current, you know, the current Impact roster, which so many people are talking about, and just, you know, I've heard it from so many people, like, if you're not watching Impact, you're missing out. And I agree. I think you guys are putting on some incredible events and shows on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's I mean, everyone loves that feeling, you know, being the underdog and the little engine that could, or you know, whatever analogy you want to use. You know, technically we're not supposed to be doing good. I mean, I think if you look at the amount of money we have at our you know, with our resources and the amount of staff that we have, you know, it's 2 or 3 people doing 10 and 12 people's jobs. It's been that way for a long time. And then this company has managed to push through and grow and be better. Even the last 2 years of me being here, it feels like the company has doubled in size. And I'm not talking personnel, I'm talking marketing, promoting, you know, the possibility of going back to the UK, the possibility of doing some shows in Mexico. And you know, that's all within the wheelhouse. And I think maybe 2 to 3 years ago, that wasn't even on the radar. So it's growing. More people are watching it. The word is getting out thanks to people like you and all the other awesome wrestling podcasts that we work with, and try to supply good guests for you guys and do whatever we can. It's kind of a big team effort, you know, and we're all the underdogs. There's no doubt about it, but it's a fun position to be in.
It is. And you get to prove a lot of people wrong or a lot of people right, which is always fun either way, right? Now, speaking of making your return to Impact in 2020, and you're talking about, you know, how you're gauging like the people's attention right now. How did you manage in the midst of a pandemic to understand what the fan reaction was, having to perform in front of no fans? How did you use social media? Were you paying attention to wrestling media? How did you go into understanding what the fans were wanting, performing in front of no one?
I think the social media aspect is important. It's important when there's people there. It's important, maybe even more, like you were saying, during the pandemic, it was, you know, keeping people engaged, and they're watching the show. But I feel like because there's not fans and there's not that noise, that's the soundtrack. You know, that's the soundtrack to pro wrestling, is the oohs and the ahs and the boos and the jeers and the gas. And when you don't hear that, it takes you out of it. It's hard to be invested. I can say I never want to wrestle in front of no people ever again. It was awful. Very distinct challenge, and I think everyone took pretty seriously. I like the fact that, you know, I'm a member of this fraternity of wrestlers that helped carry pro wrestling, especially a television product that's supposed to be shot and done in front of a live audience, and there wasn't one. So that's never happened in the history of the business, and I hope that it never happens again. But in a weird way, it's like I'm part of that group, like, I'm not the
Right.
main reason by any means, but there you could point at certain people in each company that said, like, that guy helped carry this company when it was on the back foot. So it's cool.
And speaking of that, you're a 20-plus-year veteran, right? And I feel like you've been around the world, different promotions in the industry. So many things have changed in the last 20 years. We just talked about how you went through a pandemic era. I feel like, there's the wrestling has evolved and so much has changed. And what are you doing to stay relevant, to stay on top of your game 20 years later, as much as everything has changed from social media to reality era, PG eras, now what we're doing, a pandemic era? How do you focus and manage to stay relevant in 20 years of doing this?
Yeah, for me, the cores of what good wrestling is won't change. They've been that core. The core is good storytelling, and that's the first and the foremost, compelling stories and compelling characters, and using the tools at your disposal to make that story good and make it more compelling. When I say tools, I mean like physicality, the act of wrestling and doing spots. Those are tools. Those are things that allow me to tell my story. They're not the all end all be all. I think when you're younger, you focus too much on that, not realizing that, the things that are doing have consequences in the story. They can bend and shape the story in a different way and make people remember why you did that and why in that moment did that happen. And when you start to think like that, wrestling becomes even more addictive. For me, it did. It becomes, it was already this drug that you can't buy, that you can't purchase, you can't, learn. You have to experience it to take that drug. And then you amplify that drug by learning to, for lack of a better word, manipulate people a certain way to do a certain thing and be interested in a certain thing. So all of the things are tools. Social media, physicality, even media like this, it's all a tool to tell our story, to get people interested in what we're doing, and hopefully in the end rewarding them for their time, because in the end there's nothing more affordable than time.
Oh, okay. I agree. I actually really love that answer. And speaking of using your tools, let me ask you something. We saw you run a stable in the past in WWE with Sanity, and now you're doing that with Impact with Violent by Design. Can you tell me the difference between those two runs and how you're telling your story differently now?
Yeah, I think the Sanity one was a little bit more insane. The groups and the people in the group were a little more unhinged and a little wilder. I think the version of VVD is a little more calculated, a little more, for me, more of a puppet master, a chess master. I'm trying to become one step ahead, where, the Eric Young of Sanity would just kind of charge out and just whatever, try to pull your eye out and do whatever he can, using his hands and using his body. And I feel like the Violent by Design Eric Young is a more cerebral and more dangerous version of that. And there's tons of similarities. I think the biggest part for that was I never got to finish Sanity. It was taken from me, taken from wrestling fans who loved it.
Yes.
Taken from Damo and taken from Nikki and taken from Wolf. It was taken away from us. And when something's taken away, if I can get it back, I'm gonna. If my favorite dog runs out the door and runs away, I don't go, oh well, he's gone now. I chase him.
Right.
And that's it. I chase him and I catch him and I bring him home again. And that's it's kind of what is happening with Violent by Design. I think it's just definitely an offshoot of that. It's different in so many ways. Obviously, different members other than me with Doring and Diener. And there's lots of personal history there that we haven't even jumped into. I said this on a podcast yesterday. We're literally scratching the surface of what I think Violent by Design can be. I think people are interested in it and intrigued, but they're not really sure what it's all about. And we have an idea for that. I have a very clear idea. I pitched some stuff last week that they seem pretty receptive to, and I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping wrestling fans get to see this vision and this thing that I have in my head, because I think it could be, maybe one of the most memorable kind of storylines ever for something like this, and it will be shot and produced and shown right on Impact Wrestling.
No, that's exciting, and I literally can't wait. Now you got me all excited. Now you spoke about catching things that when something goes away, you don't let it just go away. You try to get it back. we saw you lose the Impact World Championship back at Slammiversary. Is that something you still have an eye on? And, you know, what can we expect from that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, my eye never comes off. You know, I may not be staring at it, but my gaze is never far away from it, you know, and that's the prize for me. You know, there is no more power and control. And that's what Eric Young and Violent by Design crave. And by having that belt, that gives us the most power and control in the industry. And that's what we need. That's what we want. And for us to do our business, that's what's required. It's hard, you know. It's you can't just grab it and take it. It's you got to be more calculated. And I was, you know, half a second away from having it. There's no shame in losing to Josh Alexander. He's one of the best in the world right now. Yeah, and that match, I mean, I think everyone saw that neither of us had anything left. You know, he left with the belt, but he knew that he was in a fight, and he almost lost what he loves most. And if you are in this business and you say you don't want to be the world champion, you're either a liar or you're in the business for the wrong reason. So that's been my goal. That will continue to be my goal, and I will get it back.
I'm sure you will. Speaking of this Josh Alexander match, we've seen you being in so many main events, feuds, and fights since your return to Impact. Have you had a favorite match or favorite feud since your comeback?
Yeah, I've had a couple. I mean, obviously the one with Josh was super special there's some nostalgia reasons of wrestling at the fairgrounds. You know, I've wrestled hundreds of matches there. Being in the main event of Slammiversary, one of the bigger pay-per-views in my hometown, technically. That's where I make my home. I've lived there since 2004. Getting a chance to wrestle, in my opinion, one of, if not the best technical wrestler in the world today, and Josh Alexander, a guy that I've known for years from Canada, test myself against the best. And, you know, with the iron, what's the saying? The iron sharpens iron. And I think the people saw something special. I think they'll remember it. I hope that they do. Yes. We poured ourselves into that match. I don't know if I'm still fully physically recovered from it, but I get a little bit better every day. My one with Rich Swann, again, I lost, but I mean, I think we created something very, very special there. Eddie Edwards, my title defense against Eddie Edwards, like 26-minute match I wrestled, and I had a fully torn ACL, and I had no idea.
Oh my God.
I would put that match against any main event for any company, any two wrestlers anywhere on the planet. It was very special. And I think mostly special because I knew I hurt my knee, but I had no idea that it was torn. That was last March and April.
And while we're on that topic, do you have any matches that you're looking forward to? Maybe a first time, maybe something you haven't gotten to do quite yet?
For me, I'd always wanted to work with the Briscoes, so just recently getting to work with them and do some tag matches with them. They're characters for sure, and really good at what they do, and brought out a kind of an intensity and a physicality out of us that maybe we weren't fully prepared for them, and I like that. You know, it was a fun match, and the chemistry was great, and people seemed to really enjoy it. So that was something that I was always looking forward to do, not knowing if I was going to get a chance, and then I did. Going forward from there, you know, there's guys here, younger guys here that definitely, I definitely want to mix it up again with Trey and Ace Austin, Speedball Bailey. Macklin is doing some wild things. I could see him possibly being in Violent by Design. You know, it's I've got my eye. I'm always looking. Like I said, I'm turned into the bit of the puppet master right now. So you never know what's going to happen.
You love to hear it. I can't wait to see what's next. I have really, truly been enjoying watching you in Impact. Do you have any message for the Lucha Libre Online and the Latin America audience watching you here?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting her show, so much for supporting me and supporting Impact Wrestling. Without you, there is no show. I have no job. So really, I was a fan. You know, I've been a fan since I was 3. I'm still a fan. I watch wrestling, you know, as often as I can. And it's this weird, beautiful, quirky community, and we're all part of it. And it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much, Eric, for your time. I want to thank Impact again for their time and for coming over here and talking to me. Este viernes, viernes, sábado, en agosto 12 y 13, directamente desde el histórico Cicero Stadium en Chicago, Illinois. Impact les va a traer el merch el viernes por la noche, en agosto 12, y en la noche seguirán el día siguiente con el Taping the Access. So you guys pueden ver, todos los latinoamericanos que estén en Chicago, Impact va a hacer historia con este evento. Tienen todos los tickets, están disponibles en Eventbrite. Thanks again, Eric Young, for your time. Gracias a todos ustedes en Lucha Libre Online. Adiós.